Have you ever felt like science, like almost like it's this close to explaining everything, but then like something massive is missing?
Mhm.
It's like you're staring at this perfectly built machine. You have absolutely no clue how it started running in the first place.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel about consciousness.
Yeah.
Like how did we become these beings that can think and feel in a universe that seems to just run on these totally impersonal laws?
It really is a question that gets right to the heart of what it means to be human. And,
Hmm.
in Mind and Cosmos, that's exactly what Thomas Nagel dives into head first.
It's true. And he doesn't just like dip his toe in the water. He's like cannonballing into this whole debate. He's like taking a philosophical wrecking ball to this foundation of materialism.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about like the book itself. We've got excerpts, we've got critiques, thought experiments, the whole shebang to really unpack this thing.
Yeah. And what I think is so interesting is that Nagel's main argument is that the universe that we see, the one that seems to be governed by these kind of blind physical laws, well, it might not be the whole picture. Okay. Can't fully explain how beings like us exist, beings that can reason and make moral judgments and even question why we exist in the first place.
Yeah, it's like trying to explain the northern lights, but only looking at the chemical composition of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You're missing the awe, the beauty, the total mystery of the whole thing.
Exactly. And Nagel, he points out that even our understanding of evolution, which is, mind-blowingly amazing in itself, might be missing a few key pieces when it comes to something as complex as consciousness.
He doesn't hold back, does he? I mean, he really goes after that standard model.
Yep.
Like the idea that random mutations and natural selection alone can explain all of the complexity of life, especially something as wild as the genetic code.
Yeah, and he argues that just reducing the mind to like a bunch of neurons firing it misses a really big point. What does it feel like to experience the world from the inside, subjectively, that what it is likeness?
Right.
Philosophers call this qualia, and explaining that through just physical processes. It's a tough one for the materialists.
So if our minds aren't just our brains, does that mean Nagel's going full on Ghost in the Machine on us? Are we
Yeah.
talking about like this completely separate realm of existence for the mind?
Not exactly. Nagel's actually proposing something way more radical, something he calls neutral monism.
Okay.
It's this idea that the fundamental building blocks of reality aren't just physical or mental, but like something else entirely.
So like a hidden code underlying the hardware and software of the universe.
Exactly. This neutral base layer could give rise to both the physical world we see and the experience of consciousness.
Whoa. Okay, that's a serious paradigm shift right there.
Okay.
But if we're totally flipping the script on this whole mind-body problem, where does that leave us with even bigger questions, like the origin of life itself? I mean, if Nagel's not buying the standard evolutionary story, what's his alternative?
Well, this is where Nagel brings up this really wild idea called natural teleology. It's like this suggestion that the universe might actually have these tendencies built right into it that lean towards complexity and even consciousness.
So instead of this random universe with no purpose behind it, he's saying that there might be something that makes it more likely for beings like us to exist, like a cosmic push in our direction.
Yeah, kind of like the universe isn't being consciously steered towards some end goal, but the laws of nature themselves might just make the emergence of minds more likely, almost like a predisposition,
Okay, that's a pretty wild thought, I'm not going to lie. But it kind of makes sense with this feeling that we're not just accidents.
Yeah.
That there's something bigger at play here. But hold on, if this whole neutral monism thing is so revolutionary, what are the main criticisms of Nagel's argument?
Right. So one of the big ones is that some people think Nagel doesn't give enough credit to the recent advancements in evolutionary biology. Like when he questions whether natural selection can really explain how life got so complex.
Right.
Some critics say that he's jumping to conclusions without really looking at all the new research coming out.
So it's not that the questions he's asking are wrong, but he might be missing some potential answers. Like when he talks about the odds of the genetic code just appearing out of random mutations.
Exactly. There's a lot of research going on right now that's looking at how that could have happened through these gradual step-by-step processes that built up complexity over a really long time. So it's really important to approach these big questions with a healthy amount of skepticism, but also with an open mind about new discoveries.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like this constant push and pull in science. You're always trying to push the boundaries of what you know, but also you have to accept that you don't have all the answers. So let's say for a second that Nagel's onto something here. What are the practical implications of that? How does this change how we understand something like morality, for example?
That's where value realism comes in. It's this idea that our sense of right and wrong could actually be rooted in the universe itself.
Wait, so you're saying that instead of stealing is wrong because society says so, we're talking stealing is wrong because the universe says so.
Exactly. Nagel's suggesting that values aren't just personal preferences, like what kind of ice cream you like. They could be objective truths that are woven into the very fabric of the universe.
But that's a mind-blowing concept.
All right.
But if that's true, shouldn't everyone agree on what's right and wrong? I mean, obviously that's not how it works in real life, which seems like a pretty big flaw in that whole objective morality idea, right?
That's a really good point and a common criticism. But Nagel isn't saying that everyone's internal compass is always going to be perfectly aligned. It's more like we all have the potential to tap into those objective values, but it gets messy. Our understanding gets clouded by cultural biases, personal experiences, even our own messed up thinking.
So we're all given a map to true north, but our compasses are like all wonky. Some are way off, some are closer, but no one's is perfect.
That is a fantastic analogy. It really highlights how important reason, open-mindedness, and empathy are for navigating this whole morality thing. Even if those objective values are out there, figuring them out and living by them, that's a whole other challenge.
Wow, that definitely gives seeking truth a whole new meaning. But does Nagel give us any kind of practical advice on how to actually live our lives with this much bigger view of reality?
Honestly, he admits that he doesn't have a step-by-step guide for us, but he does stress how important intellectual humility is and being open to different ways of thinking. Which makes sense when you're basically arguing that our current understanding of the universe is incomplete.
Yeah, for sure. He's not saying we should ditch science or logic altogether, but that we need to recognize their limits and be open to the possibility that there's a much bigger, more mysterious picture than we can even imagine right now.
Exactly. It's less about him telling us what to think and more about him trying to spark that curiosity and wonder about the big questions.
So it's like an intellectual choose-your-own-adventure kind of thing. You're exploring this uncharted territory, and there might not be one right path, but the journey itself is where the real growth happens.
Exactly. And it's not like he leaves us completely empty-handed. He encourages us to really wrestle with questions like, what if the universe actually cares about our existence? Or what if it's somehow designed to create beings like us?
Now, those are some seriously profound what-ifs. It completely flips the script on this idea that we're just insignificant specks in the grand scheme of things. Maybe we're actually playing a much more important role than we ever realized.
And that's what makes Nagel's work so radical. If he's right, we're not just talking about slightly adjusting our understanding of science. We're talking about a complete transformation of how we see the world.
Mind officially blown.
Yeah.
This is some next-level stuff. So where do we even go from here?
That's where things get even more interesting.
I don't know. It's like we've stumbled onto this hidden message. Like it's encoded in the universe itself.
And we're just starting to figure out what it means. That's what I love about Nagel's work. It's not really about finding all the answers. It's more about opening up these whole new ways of asking questions.
It's like he's handing us this map to a brand new continent and saying, go explore.
And what makes it even more exciting is this idea that our evolution as conscious beings might not be over. If the universe really does have this built-in tendency towards complexity and consciousness, where could that take us next?
Okay, now that's both like exhilarating and kind of terrifying. What kind of crazy new forms of consciousness could emerge? What new moral dilemmas are we going to face?
Nagel definitely doesn't shy away from those questions, but he's not claiming to have all the answers. He wants us to consider these possibilities with a sense of humility, remembering just how much we don't know.
It's like that Carl Sagan quote, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. I feel like Nagel's saying that something might be us, or at least what we're becoming.
That's a pretty humbling thought, isn't it? To think that we could be part of something so much bigger, this universe that's still evolving, still revealing its secrets. And maybe our role as conscious beings isn't just to watch it happen, but to actually participate in it.
So is Nagel saying we need like a bigger, bolder vision of science? Like we shouldn't abandon the pursuit of knowledge, but we have to approach it with more of a sense of wonder and realize that our current methods might not be enough to really understand reality.
Exactly. He's reminding us that science, for all its power, is still just a tool. And like any tool, it's got its limits. To really wrap our heads around something as complex and mysterious as consciousness, we might need to come up with completely new tools, new ways of thinking, new ways of even asking the questions.
So where does that leave us? The non-philosophers, I mean, the everyday people just trying to make sense of these big ideas. What are we supposed to do with all of this mind-blowing information?
I think the biggest takeaway from Mind and Cosmos is just the importance of staying curious. Keep asking those huge questions, even the ones that seem impossible. Don't be afraid to challenge what everyone thinks, to really consider the radical possibilities.
Yeah, embrace the mystery. Don't just accept the world as it seems. Dig deeper, question everything, and be open to the idea that the universe might be hiding surprises that we can't even begin to imagine.
Because Nagel's reminding us that the very act of asking those questions, of searching for meaning and understanding that, might be the most powerful evidence that the universe is so much more than just a bunch of random particles. It suggests a universe that could be hardwired for wonder, for meaning, and for minds like ours that can contemplate their own existence.
So if you're feeling intellectually adventurous, like you're ready to dive into something deeper, Thomas Nagel's Mind and Cosmos is calling your name. Just be ready. Your brain's in for a serious workout.
And remember, it's not about getting to some final answer. Sometimes the best journeys are the ones that leave you with even more questions than you started with.
Because those unanswered questions, those mysteries, that's where the real wonder of the universe lies. And who knows what amazing discoveries are waiting for us on the other side. This has been an amazing deep dive, and we hope it inspires you to keep exploring the incredible world of mind and cosmos.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching.